Good evening. This is Thursday, June 22nd, 2023. This is the regular meeting of the Cabell County Board of Education, and we would like to begin tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please rise? Mrs. Bond, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll begin with celebrations. Jed Flowers.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Sachs, and Counselor Myers. We're very excited to have some state champions with us tonight from Cabell Midland High School. So first, we're going to recognize our West Virginia SSAC Boys Tennis AAA State Championship team. Congratulations to the Cabell Midland High School Boys Tennis team for winning the WVSSAC Boys Tennis AAA State Championship Friday, May 12, 2023. The Knights defeated defending champion Hurricane 4-3. This is the first team title in the Cabell Midland High School program history. Wow. So let's give them a big round of applause. Team members, will you please come forward? I'd like you all to come and introduce yourselves. We've got also our head coach, Angela Reiner, and assistant coach, Robin Harmon.
Oh, yeah.
Come on up and please introduce yourselves to the board.
Hi, my name is Cabell Chatton. I played 4th seed this year, and yeah, I'm an upcoming junior.
Excellent.
Great, we'll be back.
My name's Ashton Cottrell, and I'm a senior this year, and I won my sophomore year.
Hey, all
Oh,
right.
congratulations.
My name's Ethan McNeely, and I'm an alternate. I'm trying to get on the team this year.
Okay, good for you.
I'm Aiden Cottrell, and I won doubles with my older brother Alex Cottrell, and it was had fun this year with my teammate. I'm moving on now, and it's kind of sad, but I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
My name's Jack Irwin. I'm a senior this year, and I was 3 last year.
Excellent.
My name is Hayden Smith, upcoming senior, and that was my awesome doubles partner.
Oh.
Outstanding.
I'm Angie Reiner, and I'm the head coach at Cabell Midland, and I'm very proud of the boys. They worked very hard this year, and they also work on and off season also, and they all work very hard and competed for their positions, and everybody did a great job. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your hard work.
Okay, I'm Robin Harmon, the assistant coach, and you couldn't ask for a bunch of better young men. They're hard workers and great tennis players. Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Congratulations. If you guys can stick around for just a minute, we'd like to take a photo with the Board of Education after all the celebrations. So thank you very much for coming tonight. Congratulations. We've had a lot of state championship teams this year, and our next one is the Cabell Midland High School boys baseball team. They won the WVSSAC Boys Baseball AAA State Championship Saturday, June 3rd. The Knights defeated Hedgesville 11-8. This is the second state title for the Knights, who last won the state tournament in 2003. So let's give them a big round of applause and come forward, please, team. Now, we understand it is summertime, so. Got team members, please come forward. Oh, there he is. Well, you can introduce yourself.
I'm Hunter McSweeney. I played second for Midland, and I pitched, and that's about all I did, really.
That's a lot. You did enough.
Apparently you did it well.
Yeah.
I'm Coach Tracy Brumfield. Like the tennis team just said, you couldn't ask for a better group of boys. The off-season workouts in the weight room, the in-season workouts we had, but you couldn't ask for a better year. All right. Sorry for all our players not here, but right now they are on travel ball out of town.
Yeah.
So, but thank you guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we totally
Thank
do.
you, Coach Brumfield.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Coach. I appreciate it. I'm Rodney May, assistant coach. We had the biggest thing about this team is they had to win 9 in a row at the end of the season.
Wow.
And they were down a few of those games and kept coming back, and they just kept right after it. So it's just their perseverance and just pulling together as a team. I mean, it was just amazing. I think that one game at Spring Valley was the best high school game, and I've been in this 46 years. It's the best high school game I've ever seen, and saw the best play I've ever seen in high school. And this young man here started it, Hunter McSweeney. There you go.
There you go. Well, congratulations, and please stick around. We do want to get your photo, representative of the team tonight, so thank you all. Our next honorees are no stranger to all of us. For only the second time in the awards history, a duo of dedicated Cabell County Schools employees has been named Superintendent Superhero as a team. Both Tammy Glover, our Information Systems Secretary, and Jeremy Baisden, Coordinator of Information Systems, were selected to be honored for their truly superhuman efforts to ensure the smoothest transition possible to the new WEVAS 2.0 student information system during the current school year. Not only did the pair spend endless hours, and I mean they were here every time you leave, their cars are in the parking lots, endless hours troubleshooting implementation issues for district staff. They also helped support West Virginia Department of Education representatives and other school district employees statewide by researching and developing solutions whenever problems were identified, and I'd say that was about daily, right, Tammy? About daily, yeah, that were identified. Without their immense expertise, solid statewide relationships, and many long hours worked, data functions most of us consider routine, such as student progress reports, would likely have been greatly delayed, may not have even happened. So we want to honor both Jeremy Baisden and Tammy Glover. Will you two please come forward? Would you like to say anything, the two of you?
I will say that we could not have accomplished what we've done this year without the support of the board, who early on, and Dr. Sachs and Ms. Watts, who recognized the need that we're going to need to retrain all of our employees that use WEVAS, and made that possible. And without our incredible employees in our schools, who I would stack up against any county in this state. In fact, I can tell you stories of when some of those employees were training other counties just so they could do their job this year. We're only here because of everyone else that has made this effort possible. Thank you.
What I would reiterate exactly what Jeremy said. The board recognized what was coming. They listened to us, allowed us to, they secured funds so that we could train these secretaries and bring them in early and get them prepared. Because Cabell did that, Cabell's secretaries were training other secretaries. When they needed students dropped, they were helping them over the phone and say, this is how you do it. Because other counties didn't always have the foresight that Cabell County had, or perhaps didn't listen to their contacts the way this board does. And our employees are amazing, and we do feel appreciated and listened to, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Glover.
Madam President and board members, I'd be remiss if I didn't reiterate what Mrs. Glover and Mr. Baisden were just saying. The fact that they are the very best in the state of West Virginia.
Hear, hear.
The Department of Education very frequently is calling them, asking them for, hey, can you test this? Can you look at this? And it's because they value their insight and their knowledge and their expertise. They're just another example of the best coming out of Cabell County and the best parts of Cabell County, and it's our people. So congratulations, you are so deserving, and we are so blessed to be able to have the both of you working in supporting our WEVAS infrastructure. And if anybody, for the community out there doesn't know what WEVAS is, it's the behind-the-scenes system, networking system that handles everything from attendance to payroll to grades to scheduling. It's the one-stop shop that is, you probably want to say, put me back in the matrix, because it's a beast. So they do a great job.
If you don't mind, we'd like to get some photos. We'll do the superheroes first and work in reverse order.
Okay, sounds good. strength, okay. All right, ready for count. Thank you, Jed. Let everybody kind of clear out here.
I thought she was referring to second meeting. Mrs. Smalley?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to make sure I understood. I thought Mary was coming for this. Should I be worried? Should we be worried about her? I knew she wasn't
Say
coming.
she was coming for this.
That's what I thought, but it's almost 5, and we haven't seen her yet. Can you give her a call and check on her, please? I'm just worried about her. Okay, I knew she wasn't going to be at the first one, but she's still not here, and it's almost 5 o'clock. I'm just worried. Maybe something.
Over her appointment, maybe
That's right. Maybe she can't get out. Okay.
All right, it's time to move on. Mrs. Watts, we're ready for instruction and leadership services. Good evening.
Good evening, board members, President Smalley, Dr. Sachs. I am actually going to turn it over to my executive directors because this is the end of the year diagnostic data review. So our final data. So Ms. Giles and Mr. Boggs. Oh, is Heather, you're going to start first?
Starting
And Ms. Scarborough will start with the high schools.
Okay.
Good afternoon, President Smalley, Dr. Sachs, board members.
Hi.
So we're going to begin today with just looking at a review of some data that we have. The next 2 slides that I'm getting ready to show you are providing you just some insight of what our SAT scores are, but these are unofficial. This information needs more, the state will look at the students who will count for us who are a full academic year. So these numbers may be a little bit different. So in our first, and I did highlight our 2023 for Cabell Midland High School. If I look at the subtotal of all of our scores, you notice a 947, which is our the second row, or 957, I'm sorry. And you notice a 499 for writing and reading, and for math, a 458. These show a total increase in all areas. Our greatest increase at Cabell Midland would be in ELA. You also notice at the last would be our percentage growth. Again, these are unofficial numbers as we are waiting for the state to give us those official. On my next screen, I have Huntington High School. At Huntington High School, we did show an increase in overall test scores for our SAT. Reading and writing was at a lower score than what our math was. One of the things that I would say about Huntington High School for math is they did work with a math tutor, providing some direct intervention based on some assessments that our students were taking, and I think that is part of the difference that we are seeing in those scores. The next screen that I'm going to show you is our Achieve. This information, this is a literacy platform that we use for our high schools. This is recognizing Cabell Midland and Huntington High School. If you see the bars that are in gray or the black color, this would be the Lexile growth that we would expect. Okay. So what is in the blue is what we actually achieved. So when I'm looking at Cabell Midland, 9th grade and 11th grade exceeded what we would have been on that pretest. The one thing that I do want to say about Cabell Midland's 9th grade, we had some ELA teachers who were completely sold and using that program with fidelity, and you can see the growth of that. One of the things that we noted at the beginning of the year when I first started, we was just looking at and talking to the teachers about how they were using the programs. One of the things that I discussed with you earlier was the fact that we weren't using it with Fidelity. So we started a series of professional developments with the 9th grade, focusing on the 9th grade. And at Cabell Midland, I can say they truly took some of those extra pieces and tried to change some instruction. The other thing is that I know that there was a strong focus at Cabell Midland with Ms. Daniels on looking at our test scores, looking at where they are, and trying to make a plan for our students. At Huntington High, we noticed a greater growth in the 11th grade. Huntington High participated in similar professional development. At Huntington High, the focus right now is beginning to look more at data. What is our data and how can we change that instruction? The next is our overall Cabell County schools. What do we look like for our high school students? And I want to look at the 898 was the Lexile reading level that we started. And this is overall for all of our students, with a 937 being our final Lexile at the end. One of the things we know that we need to do is make sure that we use the program with Fidelity in all of our content areas, because if they do not score a 75% in all every time they take an assessment in this, it will not allow them to level up. So we may have had kids who saw growth, but we want to make sure we keep that assessment score at a higher amount. The last screen that I have data for is ALEX. ALEX is our math program that we're using with Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. The one I want to notice that the second row, which says Math L5, it only has 2 students in there. I did meet with the ALEX team just to say what happened there. That was 2 students who were identified as having IEPs, that we were having them use the program to see what progress they would make. We saw significant growth with those special education students in that program, and I know that's only 2, but we tried to see what impact that would have. So that is something that we want to look at in the future. If you notice in the 4th row, it talks about mastery with SAT math. We did not focus as much on that, only because we had the SAT prep within Khan Academy. So we had that information there. So what does this data mean for us as a high school? Huntington High School has shown improvement in math, and I do think we still need to look at what we did and the impact of that, and how can we replicate that to continue that increase. Again, these scores are unofficial and only based on what is in College Board. The state will provide us with the official data. Cabell Midland has shown more growth in ELA, and I discussed why I feel we have those changes. Both schools are working to meet those state targets. As of right now, I'm not sure that we would meet what the state target would be, but I don't know if that percentage will change whenever we get the official scores. Our next steps is having data meetings with school leadership teams. We need to look at how we are using Khan Academy. This year we were using Khan Academy, and some students were choosing what they were using, but we may need to tailor that more towards the skills that we find an area of deficit in. Khan Academy is coming out with 3 new programs. One is to focus on grammar and ELA, and one is to focus on Algebra 1. So we do have some trainings and some support with Khan Academy. We are continuing to further our work with Achieve 3000 and working with those representatives to help support our teachers and our leaders. We are having a digital SAT this year. This will be the first year for that, and the format is going to be just a little bit different than what we have in the past, but that format also allows for us to have an SAT that would be, that they could have practice tests. And the schools are looking at how they restructure, both Cabell Midland and Huntington High, how they do their shield or their compass in order to provide some more support to our students. Do you have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Let me go back to Alex. I know you said there's only 2 students in there, but that is significant growth.
That is significant.
29%.
It is. So I'm looking at how we can use that to support our students.
How can we utilize that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Honestly, it's
I will
great.
turn this over to my other peers.
This is good.
if it'd be all right, Madam President and Board, Heather, I really want to commend our 2 high schools for the work that they've done over the past year. We're seeing growth, and I want to commend you in the work that you've been doing, because I can tell you, I can tell the board firsthand how hard Mrs. Scarberry has been working hand in hand with the schools. She's setting clear expectations for how the resources that we have need to be used, and she's identifying through collaboration with the school leaders and with the educators, having those conversations as to what is it we need to do to help support you, and if that means additional professional development, additional support, then she's finding it. And so I think that the improvement that we're seeing is definitely in the right direction. It's definitely not where we need to be,
right?
But we're making steady improvement in that direction. And I just want to thank you, and I want to thank our school leaders for continuing that focus and working hand in hand to continue to improve the learning outcomes on the SAT for our students. So it's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, good evening. So we are going to talk, Mr. Boggs and I are going to talk a little bit about iReady and the diagnostic for K-8. This year for elementary, we did it a little bit different, and we had 4 windows. And the reason we went with 4 windows was because whenever they take a diagnostic, it changes their lesson path. And so we found that we wanted their lesson paths to be more appropriate for them. And so that's why waiting till the semester for the lesson path to change seemed like a little too long. So we did like this piece because it changed their lesson path a little bit differently. Middle school stuck with, I only put the elementary windows on there, and you'll see we did we did August for our beginning. We did a November and a February versus a December. And then we did one in May. And so then we also progress monitor between then once a month. But middle school had the same first and last window, and instead of those 2 middle ones, they did December. Does that make a little bit of sense? Yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll go on. We did really basic data for you guys. I know we have gone over iReady data in the past, but just a reminder of the colors. So you'll see a dark green there, which is 2 or more grade levels, or mid or above grade level. Then your lighter green is on grade level. Your yellow is 1 grade level below. Your pinky, lighter red, is 2 grade levels below, and then it says it on the bottom of your sheet there, and then your darkest red is 3 grade levels below. So you can kind of get an idea there of the color chart. So if you look at kindergarten, that is very skewed because we did not make kindergarten take the very first diagnostic. So you'll only see 1 school decided to take the first diagnostic. And so we did that a little bit different to give kindergarten an opportunity to get into the program and understand how to work their iPads. And so they took their first diagnostic in November. So, kindergarten did make amazing growth of those 34 kids. And you typically don't see red in kindergarten anyway because it's not 2 or more grade levels below. So, and the same thing for first. You don't typically see a lot of red in your first grade scores as well. The biggest thing that stood out for me here is 3rd grade. 3rd grade unofficially on GSA did really well as well when, you all will see our data once it's embargoed.
So that I will let you know, while we can't really discuss just so you're aware.
Right.
The board just saw it this afternoon.
Okay.
And so they know the data.
Okay.
They've seen the data.
Okay.
Just for John Q. Public, it's embargoed, so we really can't discuss specific
And I was not
scores.
giving specifics
Oh, no,
at
I
all.
know. But I didn't want us to have that shroud.
Yes.
But I think you're exactly right. We're seeing positive
Yes.
growth, but I wanted to let you know the board members do have that data, and they see
Okay, great. So then I'm not, all I was going to say about that is that I'm really love what I'm seeing in 3rd grade. I feel like the foundational skills that we have been working on so diligently with letters, I think it's beginning to show progress. I think third grade's starting to see that. You know, this third grade would have been in kindergarten when COVID hit. And this would have been, you know, last year they had Super Kids, and Super Kids in second grade really hits foundational skills and supports our letters. So I was super excited to see this data for reading for third grade because I really think what we're doing is supporting our letters in the Science of Reading initiative. So you can kind of take a look there at, you know, the growth in elementary. You know, as you go up grades, the growth isn't quite, you know, where we would like it to be, and we continue to work on that. The next one is your 6, 7, and 8. We have data if you need to see more granulated data that talks about the different domains. Like I said, this is very overall data for you guys to see. It's not the specific domains, it's not specific schools. This is overall data. So, you know, in middle school, you have the same as we do in upper elementary, and that's vocabulary and informational text. We're hoping that informational text begins to get better, and I noticed in the elementary we are getting better. With the adoption of CKLA is a lot of informational text. So we're hoping to see some of those gains continue to happen in the middle school and our upper elementary. And we are starting to see movement in informational text. So that makes us really excited. This next slide is a slide that,
Kristen,
yes.
I'm so sorry. Would you mind helping clarify, though, why us improving students' ability to read informational text is so important? Like the big picture, why is informational text so important when we're thinking about why we're focusing on it?
Well, I think informational text is more of your nonfiction text. It's more of rigorous, complex text. Yeah. And I think it makes better readers. I know it makes better readers. The research shows that it makes better readers. And everyone is being exposed to those contexts and those vocabulary and that grade level text, and it makes it more rigorous. Is that what you were looking for?
Well, that's a perfect answer.
Yes.
I would also add that as students progress through the grade levels and they are, you know, in more content-specific programming in their middle school, high school years, their ability to read informational text, you know, as it relates to science and social studies, that is informational text.
Sure.
And so being able to understand and comprehend informational text as opposed to fictional text, sometimes informational text just isn't as interesting as being, you know, immersed in this fictional story. So that's one thing. The other big takeaway is that the state assessments, the percentage of the text that they have to read on the reading portions are heavily informational text. There are a few, especially on the earlier grades, that are fictional, but as they progress, it's much more heavily informational text. And so if all we're doing throughout the year is providing fictional text and not exposing them to the informational text, then they're going to be at a disadvantage. And that's why it's so important that you did a great job. I just wanted to clarify a few other things. So.
May I make a comment on that?
Absolutely.
You provided me with 2, if not 3 different grade levels of those texts. And it is informational text, but it's entertaining informational text, which I think is why you are seeing that.
Right,
because
absolutely.
I love to read, but when you get something that's interesting that they're still having to pull information out of so that we have comprehension there, I liked them. I thought they were fun.
Yes,
I mean,
they
for
are.
informational text, I think the kids like them.
They do. They do. This next slide is a new one that Curriculum Associates has just provided for us, and I think this is pretty encouraging data as well. So this is what you're looking at in the first left-hand column is actually the national norm in 1819, which was pre-COVID. So then the next one is this West Virginia, all of West Virginia in the spring of 22-23. So this is all of West Virginia for this year, and then there's our district. And so I think our district is very, very similar to the pre-COVID national rates, and so of where kids were prior to COVID. So I think, to me, I really liked looking at this particular, because I think this shows we're back on track and we're getting back to where we should be pre-COVID. Questions about this one? Okay. All right. So before I let Mr. Boggs talk about math, because he doesn't like to say phonemic awareness, it's too hard for him. Before he talks about that, I'm going to tell you about some of the takeaways from our ELA data. So first of all, we have really concentrated. We didn't put it on this sheet, but both in elementary and middle, we have concentrated on doing our walkthroughs, requiring walkthroughs. We've done walkthroughs as a district, have look-fors for our particular curriculum pieces, continue to have PD with our administrators so they know what to look for when they're going through an ELA classroom. We continue to work on our letters and using Haggerty for phonics, phonemic awareness instruction. There is a weakness in vocabulary and comprehension. We just talked about that in the informational text. There's always going to be a focus on vocabulary, continuing to use it in the curriculum, in the content areas. We'll have countywide PD on August the 9th. We will continue our work on science of reading. That is, that's a push with legislature, but we're going to continue our work on that. So our first grade aides that are being hired, we will start to train first grade and kindergarten ECATs on science of reading and letter strategies. We have trained pre-K on strategies, so we'll continue to support that as well. As far as middle school, they too are going to work with Lexia on a program called Lexia Pro, and that is for non-reading secondary students, and it's actually an extension of letters. Lexia is also who provides letters, and so they will work with teachers and students. And teachers who are not really trained to teach reading, that will help with that as well. We had the paper tutoring, and our focus will continue to be informational text. And like I said, I really think with the CKLA curriculum, I think you're going to see some changes in middle school with informational text. I think that those numbers will go up, and we're seeing slight increases in elementary with informational text as well. Questions on ELA? All right, Mr. Boggs.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Sachs. Just here to talk a little bit about iReady and the math scores that we had this past year. So, just like Ms. Giles had spoke a few moments ago, this slide is really just looking at K through 5 and just giving you the breakdown between the fall, where the students were in K through 5 in the fall, opposed to the spring. As you can see in the elementary level, Ms. Giles, her administrators and teachers, doing a wonderful job. Along with that, they've showed enormous amounts of growth in the math this past year. And the domains for the domains for math are going to be numbers and operations, algebraic thinking, measurements, data, and geometry. So those are all domains, and if you would like to see any specifics to a particular school or anything like that, we would be happy to provide that to you. If you go on to the next page, it's really looking at the middle schools. You're going to see from the fall in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Just as Ms. Giles said as well, our test scores are embargoed, but it sounds like that you did get a preview of that, and at the middle school level, we had growth, and we're very excited to talk about that when it becomes public information in some areas, and particularly some schools, on the growth that they showed with that. One thing important to note about this is it is somewhat difficult in the secondary level, especially at middle school, after the state assessment, and this was given after the state assessment. So the motivation factor after the state assessment is somewhat difficult because they've taken the test. We're still teaching, we're still doing all of that, but it is that last window for the middle school is after the general summative assessment. If we go on to the next slide. This one as well is just talking about the national norm, and you can really see back in the spring of 2018-19 pre-pandemic, that's the national norm on that. If you go all the way, or the middle chart is going to be looking at math scores year to date. That is K through 8 on there of where they're at for the state level. And then you go on over into the district this past year, and what you can really see is our scores are better in Cabell County than other districts in the state that are utilizing iReady, and we are really closing that gap, getting back to the pre-pandemic levels of where we're at in math. So we are making some great gains with that and closing the gap. Any questions before I go on to the last slide?
Mr. Boggs, you and I have had some conversations. I know that this data is not showing and sharing with the board the predicted proficiencies
Sure.
that iReady will yield for teachers and for school administrators when we take that benchmark. That's not what you're seeing here, but could you just share with the board what your perceptions, and maybe even what Ms. Giles and Ms. Watts have noticed about the iReady program and the predicted proficiencies as an indicator on the state assessment?
Absolutely. It's shocking how accurate a 40 to 50 minute assessment can predict the proficiency of a student at the end of the year. So after the first assessment, it gives you a projected proficiency report, and I'll be happy to provide that to you at any time. And what it says is, if you continue teaching the way you have, and you're teaching the standards, that's going to be your what is it? The one blank here. The typical growth. Yeah, that's going to be your typical growth. Then, if you really knuckle down, it says that you can hit the stretch growth. I will tell you that at that middle of the year assessment, when we look at that, it is incredibly accurate. This is the last 2 years I've had this report. Usually within 2 or 3 points, it's predicting on that typical growth of where that school will score on the GSA. Now, I will tell you, the conversations that we have at the elementary and middle school level is we go to the principals and they meet with their leadership teams, and we say, here's where you're at now. If you continue doing what you're doing, you're either be low growth or typical growth.
And I just want to pause you. When we talk about what they're doing, we're talking about maybe the model of intervention.
Absolutely.
How are they doing their tiered levels of instruction? You know, and that is the quality reflection that we're having.
Absolutely.
So that, do we need to make a modification? Do we need to tweak it in some way to make it more efficient or more effective to try to hit that stretch?
And the best way I could equate it is you're having blood work done. You're doing a diagnostic, you have the blood work done, it gives you a report, and then you see what areas you need to work on. Of course, if you don't make any adjustments to your diet and your exercise and stuff like that, nothing's going to improve, and you just continue doing what you're doing. But if you go back and you really dig into it and say, you know, were this informational text area or vocabulary or in math, algebraic thinking or geometry is something that we don't always get to at the end of the year, and they really hyper-focus on that and do those interventions for those students that are behind, you can hit that stretch growth. And we had schools 2 years in a row have hit the stretch growth and exceeded the stretch growth. And I will tell you that is very, very difficult, and that means that that school teachers, students are really on the ball and really taking that data to heart and making those adjustments, and not just hoping for the best. They're really taking this, making an actionable data to make changes in the school. And it's really exciting when you have that conversation with the principals, and then the scores come back, and it's just, I mean, you want to throw a party for them, because that's hard work. That is hard work. So we're very proud of the schools that have done that. So on this last page, just the key takeaways for math. The data indicates that Cabell County is above the state average in iReady mathematics proficiency, and I talked about those different domains: algebraic thinking, and geometry, and numbers and operation, all of that. It's really, there's nothing that's glaring at the district level where we need to hyper-focus on, and it really comes down to the school level and those teachers and grade levels and different things like that. You get a little better information down at that. So there might be doing an exceptional job in geometry at this classroom, but that's really what our professional learning communities are for, is really figuring out and making adjustments in our classrooms. So kind of the next steps for improvement are, just as I said, monthly PLC meetings and coaching cycles that we have our academic coaches down, or academic specialists and new teacher specialists down here that are doing the coaching cycles with the teachers that are new, and they can work with them with that and give them some reflection and different things to see how they're doing in that classroom and to really improve their craft. Solve is just elementary strategy with solving mathematical problems. Do the Math is an intervention at the elementary level, and just discourse strategies. Math is difficult for a lot of students. However, you do need to have a productive struggle when it comes to math. You don't want to just give the answers to the students, and especially at the middle school level with our Carnegie Learning, it's very, very intense, and there is frustration sometimes with the students. But that frustration and that discourse really makes better learners, because we don't always have somebody to give us the answer for everything. So we've had great growth with that. The Ready coaching support, iReady comes in and provides that coaching to the elementary, because they also do the curriculum aspect of it at the elementary level. Targeted support for new and struggling teachers. Again, that kind of comes back to the coaching cycles, and we want to improve those teachers and be able to provide support. Something that we're very excited about that just kind of rolled out this past year towards the end of the year, I guess probably around February or March, was assessment authoring. And what that is through the GSA platform, the teachers can go in and select specific standards that they are working on, and they can assign that assessment to the students to see, and they can kind of create their own assessment that aligns with the GSA and give that to the students, and then they can really see, did this work? Are my students getting this, or are they not getting it? And they go back and make those adjustments. And then, just like Ms. Giles said, paper tutoring, that has been extremely successful with those families that may not have that support at home with the math. And a student at any time of the day, whether they're an athlete or they are just getting home late, or they don't have the parental support at home, they can log into that 24/7 and get that support. So we're very excited about that, and that can be for any subject. So any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boggs. Okay, is that it? Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Boggs. Ready for Mr. Hardesty. Yay.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Sachs, Ms. Myers. I do not have a construction update for you this evening. I actually have been off since the last meeting that we have, so this is my first day back as well. We are trying to put something together for tomorrow's board update, and I appreciate all of those in my department that's been filling me in today on a lot of the things that goes on, and even during that time off, it's good to be able to stay in contact with them. But I do have a couple of things on the agenda I wanted to point out. Both are kind of unusual. One we briefly touched on last meeting, That's 4.02, which is Casto Technical Services. Casto was the low bid on the HVAC work at Cabell Midland. Specifically, they are going to be replacing the water source heat pumps in the band room and the choir room. And our hope is, and our expectation is, that this prevents the continual loss of compressors that we've been working on over the years. We discussed this during the budget meeting. We actually anticipated the cost of this to be about $130,000. The low bid on this project was $106,260, which was substantially under the $130,000. We actually had a second bid. That bid was, I think, $118,000. But what I did in your under the tab, our tab, you'll see all of that information from that bid is listed there from both of those vendors. Also on 7.02, and this really comes from the result of the discussion we had at the board work session on June 12th. And this is the Cabell Midland Turf Project, just a clarification. We discussed where the appropriate place to put this would be. We really didn't need another contract, so it was just under a special board item. But the purpose is to clarify the board-approved agenda item for May the 16th, where approval was given for the Moats Group to install turf infield at Cabell Midland for softball and baseball. Yes.
I just want to make sure the board is aware. If you look in the operations update, it's what he's describing is at the end of that packet.
Yes, sorry about
so the
that.
tab of operations and support, and it's
Yes.
toward the end of that packet. You
There
can
are
see
quite a
exactly
few
what he's
pages
talking
that are the bid for the Cabell Midland project, and then the last few pages are the turf, and it's the same information that I gave you at the board work session last Monday on the 12th.
Sorry, if you can just make sure you're telling which exhibit you're referencing.
Okay.
You weren't? If you weren't, that's okay. I just didn't know if you
No,
were. Okay, I
was not.
apologize.
It's just the information.
Okay.
I do know what's there. I included all of it, the original bid item from May 16th, and that $400,000. That original bid item was modified during the meeting because of the information we received of the $360,000 bid that's also in your packet. To pay the combined $360,000 plus $40,000 for the installation, which includes not the installation, but for the materials, the drainage line, the gravel, and the geofabric that goes under the turf. Moving forward with that, we know that they will need about $54,000 in order to complete the project. That's what they will have to raise. But one thing that Drew needed, and if you remember we discussed this, was a breakdown for Moats on the price per field. Because we'll need to show how much the board actually put into each field for audit purposes. That came back, that is the last quote that's in your packet. And so the concern there was to make sure that we are clear going forward so there will not be any animosity between the two programs as they raise funds for their own wants that they have on the field outside of the turf. And so for the $54,000, what we did, so the $400,000 goes towards the school as a whole. The $54,000 that's left, what I did is I just calculated the percent of total of that $54,000 from the percent of the cost of the turf of the $360,000. That gave us baseball at 63% cost and softball is 37%. So if you do that math, that's what that comes out. So baseball at 63% of that $54,000 that's left is $34,020, and softball at 37% is $19,980. And so the expectation, and both teams know this, the administration there knows, we would need the funds deposited with Drew so he can put those in the bank in order to move forward from the program. So as they collect those, and I saw something out on this week where Cabell Midland received a check from one of the banks, and we certainly appreciate that. That will come here and go towards that project, and as soon as we get that, we will begin moving forward so we can make sure the vendors are paid appropriately. Hopefully it's just really a clarification of what's expected from each program to pay. We just wanted to make sure that it was clear the numbers weren't arbitrary. They were actually based on the quotes that we received from the turf company. Are there any questions on any of that?
Yeah, just a real quick question. I'm sorry.
Okay, sir.
Is that when do we anticipate, or do we know yet when the funding from each program or the school will come in here so that contract can be awarded?
We don't know, and that's
Okay.
the reason we have not started moving forward yet, because we can't have a vendor hanging out there with owed money and not be able to pay.
Right.
And so right now, the school is actively trying to collect that, and they have received plenty of funding, I guess, contributions, or at least verbal contributions. They just haven't received the checks yet. And so we need to make sure they receive the check, but also what the check is specifically for.
Okay, and a follow-up question, so the Mott's group, how long are they gonna hold their bids for?
They are working with the school to make sure that they can hold that bid long enough. We can't hold it indefinitely.
Right.
That's why the team is actively working with the donors to try to get that money in. But we do have a little bit of time.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, if there's no other questions, I know that this last meeting was, my name was on the agenda. I just want to take a moment and thank the board for, gosh, 20-some years that I've been in Cabell County. I appreciate it. I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank Dr. Sachs for his leadership and just the opportunities that you all have allowed me to have. Cabell's a blessing, it really is. And there's some great people. Thank you.
We're
Mr.
blessed to
Hardesty,
have you,
I
Mr.
want to thank you for your leadership, sir. You will definitely be missed, sir. But you'll be a phone call away. And so will I.
Just run down the road here.
That's right.
All right, I think we're ready for communications from Dr. Sachs.
Thank you, Madam President, board members. There you go. We forgot to have that up.
Here we go.
So since the last time we met, we held our Educational Excellence Summit, which was just really a resounding success. And of course, that was following our Service Personnel Leadership Conference, which I highlighted last time. We are so proud of the professional development that we've been able to offer here in Cabell County over the past year. Again, this was the second Educational Excellence Summit that we're just very proud of. Truly, Ms. Watts and her Instructional Leadership Division team is to be commended. It was a first-class experience for so many. And again, it's one of those things that other school districts, even some of the local private schools, are sort of knocking on the door. They want to be able to participate, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. So very proud of the work that they did, and I want to thank the educators who gave of their time to be able to come and to sharpen their saw and to be a part of this community of greatness. So congratulations and thank you to them. As you can see on the next page, this is just some feedback, social media, the shout outs that individuals were sort of giving. So again, it was very positive and just wonderful, wonderful feedback. So again, we want to thank our educators, because truly they should never underestimate the difference that they're making in our classrooms and our communities and with our children. Summer learning has been in full force from last week. We had Highland's Lego Summer Learning Adventure, so many students were able to participate in the Lego camp there at Highland. Those are students in grades 3 through 5. What a neat opportunity. This is the first year that this camp has been able to be offered, and I want to thank Ms. Giles as well as Highland's elementary leadership to be able to try to offer this program for students. Our Japanese immersion camp it's in its 11th year, and so the first week was last week, and what a neat experience. This one is usually held over at Altizer, but because of the renovations going on at that site, it was actually located at the Highland building. I thought it was a great venue, and it was a wonderful experience for those students as always. This camp wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the partnership between the Department of Education, Toyota, Napon Tungsten, and several other very key sponsors to make sure that this program continues. It is one of the fastest filling up programs that we continue to offer here in Cabell County. And I was actually telling Aaron that I can't wait for Paul to be eligible, because I think he would get a kick out of it. So it's a wonderful, wonderful experience for our students. And I think that the second one, do we know when is the second one being offered? It's right now. Are they going to have the so are they having the culminating activity tomorrow? Yes. What time is it? Do you know? Could you find?
Friday's the end of the day. Friday is the last day.
Could you find out what time the end of the program at the end is? So I can. No, I know, but I mean, what time of day on Friday?
Probably the same time, 1:30.
If you could just confirm it, I want to be able to send it to the board so that if anybody wants to, it's a neat little experience if you have an opportunity. So, yeah, Drew's daughter was in it last week too. She did a great job. There's an ending activity where they are. I'm not sure what what you know what the toy's called?
I don't know what it's called, but
It looks like a hammer and a ball with a string. Yeah, it looks like an ice cream cone, and they're able to flip it, and they have a competition. And I tell you what, man, his daughter did fantastic, so I was impressed. Now, I wanted to see Drew do it, and I wanted to see Drew and his daughter, compete, so. Yes, I know, that's why I kept saying that. I was like, yes, Kelly, I know it's Friday, but what time? It's been a long week, so. Finally, I have some very, very exciting news to share. This is hot off the press. We are so excited to be able to announce this, and there'll be additional information coming to Cabell County families. But, we are a CEP district, as you all know, which means that we participate in the free lunch and breakfast for all students. Well, one of the other perks about being in the CEP program is that we now also qualify for all families within Cabell County to be able to qualify for discount on their broadband through the Affordable Connectivity Program through the FCC. What this means is that every student in Cabell County's household will receive a $30 per month discount on their broadband provider, regardless of who the provider is. So that's a savings of $360 per year for every single Cabell County student household. We're really excited about that. And you also will get up to a $100 credit toward the purchase of a computer or tablet through this program. So again, we're really excited that we can offer this for our families here in Cabell County. It's just another thing that we are doing to be able to provide connectivity for our students and our families at home.
Great.
And again, additional information will be coming out. Mr. Jason Jackson will be working with Mr. Flowers on being able to get this information to our families by mid-July. So again, we're very excited about this, and we can't wait to spread the news and to share with our families how they can take advantage of this, these internet discounts that, again, you have a student that goes to Cabell County Public Schools, you get a discount on your internet. Pretty awesome. So, Madam President and board members, that concludes this update. I wanted to let you know that the last 4 days, my instructional leadership division team and I were at the West Virginia Association of School Administrators Leadership Conference. As vice president of the association, I was actually the one that was responsible for the entire program, scheduling the speakers and organizing the event. It was a resounding success. We were able to focus on math as well as the science of reading and the levers of literacy, which was a really wonderful opportunity for us to participate. And I think that one of the things that we walked away from a reflection standpoint was that we are continuing to set the stage and the tone for what other school districts are striving to accomplish and to do. And they're looking to our team for leadership and ideas. We had our team actually was selected, not by me specifically, but they were able to present on our PRISMs, which is the augmented reality mathematics instruction, as well as our family and community engagement activities, both of which have been submitted to the National Association for presentations in San Antonio later this school year. So we're really excited about that. The other thing is that I had the opportunity to speak with the National PTA Association about a month and a half ago, and they were wanting to learn more about how we do family engagement in Cabell County. It was a really unique opportunity, but we have also, as a school district, been selected to participate in a national cohort of exemplary school districts that are doing family engagement well with the National PTA Association and the National Association of School Administrators. And the first event is actually in DC. We're still working out the logistics as to who might be able to go to represent the school district, but we're really excited about that. And what's nice about that is the school district actually receives a pretty sizable stipend and to participate in this project. So again, great things are happening, and it's all because of our amazing people. So, thank you, board members.
That's great, thank you. Well, that's a lot of good news. Thank you, Dr. Sachs.
You're very welcome.
All right, next on the agenda, we have delegations to be heard. I think it's pertinent at this point. I neglected last time to read our policy concerning delegations to be heard. And I believe I should be doing that at every meeting, so I will address that. The board provides a period for public participation in every meeting of the board and publishes rules to govern such participation in board meetings. Public comment is not an open forum to attack individual school system employees or board members. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the board. This is a business meeting of the school board. The board appreciates the public's input and will listen attentively, consider each comment, but will not respond, debate, or answer questions during comments on agenda items or during the public comments section. When you are called to come forward, please state your name, address, and group affiliation, if and when appropriate, for the record. Do we have delegations to be heard tonight?
Yes, ma'am. We have Amy Neal, Cabell County
All
AFT.
right.
Good evening, Amy Neal, 244 Woodmire Drive, Milton, West Virginia, 25541. Once again, I'm here on behalf of my union, Cabell AFT Local 6340. Some of my members, as well as myself, can understand why the need for adding more central office jobs. It was reported in the newspaper that we, Cabell County Schools, are $4.6 million in the hole. At tonight's meeting, you're wanting to add 2 director jobs at a cost to the county of $224,000 and then rebid those original positions. Now, weren't these jobs being performed already with smaller salaries? Basically, the same job as before, but now with more money. Just like the athletic director job at Cabell Midland, RAD and only RAD has to have the administration certification, which adds up to about an additional $20,000 to $30,000 a year. We, Cabell County Schools, we have 2 schools yet to be bid out for construction, and the bids are coming in at roughly 33% over the budget. An example is the new and ever so needed Milton Elementary School, one of the county's larger elementary schools, already is having to cut classroom size and forfeit a new gymnasium. On our payroll, we also have 2 clerks each being paid at nearly and over $90,000 a year. And their job is to be the liaison for the board regarding the construction crews. But now we feel the need to add a director of new construction and remodeling. After next year, when the COVID money is gone, which we believe is the money that's used to support and fund these jobs, we, as a county, will suffer massive teacher and service staff cuts. The ones who will be cut are the ones who are out in the schools. These are the people who are truly the backbone of our county. I'm afraid that this can cause that we will lose the support of our county taxpayers when the next levy comes up for election. We need to ask ourselves, are we truly being good stewards of their money? It was said, and it was quoted, that we needed to tighten our belts. My biggest fear is if we don't tighten our belts, we're going to be caught with our pants down. We as educators, as you already know, have a target on our back. Let's please not make it any bigger. Thank you.
That concludes delegations.
Okay, next we have board member comments. Any? How about workshop requests? I think we've addressed that as well, haven't we?
We did, yeah.
All right, let's move on to Section 4, minutes, contracts, policies, and other items, or consent agenda. Board members, do you have any items you'd like to discuss?
Madam President.
Any questions?
I just wanted to point out that I am recommending as part of the consent agenda, item 4.04, which is the approval of the personal leave incentive program for the
Yes, sir.
2023-24 school year. That's an incentive for positive attendance for both service and professional personnel. This is in I believe it's the fifth year, is that right, Drew? Fifth year that we've been able to provide this, that we budgeted for this to be available for our teachers and service personnel, which gives them the opportunity to earn up to $1,150 extra per year based upon their positive attendance record. So I'm very proud of this and glad that we can do this for our employees in the year ahead.
Well, the board is very supportive of this program. I think it's been very successful. All right, we have anything we need to discuss? I will entertain a motion for the entire series.
Make a motion that we approve the 4,000 series as is.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pauly makes the motion. Pauly.
Second.
Mrs. Bond seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Let's move on to 5,000. Okay. Financial. Mr. Rodkin?
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, board members.
Evening.
I do have a few items on the agenda this evening. And I do have a couple of quick updates for you just to kind of keep you in the loop on some things. First thing, you know that at the second meeting in May, the board adopted a budget pending review from the Department of Ed. And I'm happy to announce the department has reviewed it and they have approved our budget for next school year. So on June 8th, they notified us that everything was good to go, and so we are all set for July 1st. So I'm happy to report that. We do not have an update yet on the PEIA, but we're still awaiting some answers there. But as far as the budget that the board adopted, it has been approved by the Department of Ed. I also wanted to give you an update. One thing that came up, I think in the last meeting, the work session, we talked about the proposed electric bus grant. I just wanted to give you all an update that I don't have figures this evening, but Highland and Green Power, that's two of the companies we talked about last week. They visited yesterday the transportation complex, and they've been visiting the counties that are interested in participating in that grant application. And I have talked with them, and they've assured us that they're going to try to get our numbers done very early, maybe try to put us ahead of some other counties, because I expressed that you all had great interest in what the overall cost could be for that electric charging equipment. So I'm hopeful that maybe at the next board meeting we'll be able to give you an update, but we certainly believe sometime in July to have some pretty solid figures for you. But like I said, I'm hopeful maybe at the next board meeting. On the agenda this evening, as far as things I'm asking you to approve, we've got the treasurer's report and vouchers payable for May. We also have a list of budget supplements, and there's also a list of budget transfers. The transfers, I will point out, if you guys looked at it, there's a couple big numbers there, so I wanted to speak to that. I'm asking permission. We may not need it, but it's asking permission of the board to set aside funds to transfer to the Capital Projects Fund for anticipated bond project overages. We don't know what the bids are, but whatever they materialize to be, we'll only transfer what's necessary to fund those projects. But I just want to be upfront with you all that I would like the authority to be able to make that transfer if the bids do come in like we anticipate they will. And that way, whenever we publish our financial statements in June, it's a little more realistic, give a better picture of where we really stand. So that's in the budget transfer section that I'm asking approval for. We also have the salary schedules on the agenda. The salary schedules include the $11.50 per day that the state authorized for all employees, both professional and service, as well as most of the items that the board has previously discussed in May and June at the two work sessions. The The only thing that's not really included in the salary schedules as presented on the agenda this evening is the proposed salary enhancement we discussed for auditors last week. And so that's something that if the board would be interested in entertaining, that would likely require an amendment to that item. But as presented, it does not include that. But all the other things we had discussed, those are inclusive in the salary schedules. So those are the items I have for you this evening. And here if there are any questions from me.
Anything?
I don't have
Thank you.
Yes, we don't. Well, thank you, Mr. Ogden. All right, board, would you entertain passing the entire financial section?
Move that we approve
Wait,
the financial.
we still have that questions out there concerning the,
And I apologize, I stepped out, so I don't know, Drew, did you clarify that additional information that the board had requested? I know that it's been provided to them, but
I believe in, at least it was updated in board docs, I believe there was a one-page document that provided some supplemental information. I hope you all have had a chance to review that.
I didn't see that.
Okay.
I have not had a chance to read
Is it in the packet?
Was it in the?
Didn't see it in the binder.
Is it just on board docs?
I didn't see it in the binder, but
Okay.
it was in board docs.
It's in board docs. Okay.
There was a document that, we had a discussion last Monday about
Yeah.
possibly addressing the salaries of certain employees. And so some of the questions that came out were, what would it cost? What would it look like if maybe we went another direction? As we stated back last Monday at the work session, the proposed increase for auditors would affect 6 employees at a cost of around $18,000. But looking on a wider scale to all G-1s, G-2s, and G-3s, that affects a larger group of employees. It's about 31 employees, and that comes out to an annual cost of about $94,000. So obviously, that's a pretty hefty price tag. So, like I said, as the salary schedules are presented on the agenda, it does not include either of those scenarios. But that's something that if the board desires to entertain either of those scenarios, the board would need to make a motion to amend the salary schedules as presented.
And I would also just want to add that either of those two scenarios or something else that the board may see as a better way to do it or even for us to explore a better way to do it, I should add. But I would also be remiss if I didn't also say that based upon our conversation, we're not sure addressing that whole group is really going to address what that group of employees was concerned about, which was the differential pay because of the fact that they have to take the auditor that auditor test.
That is accurate.
And so I want to, I feel a responsibility to say I'm not sure that solves the problem. I mean, obviously, we would like to be able to give all of our employees a substantial, raise in that regard for the hard work that they're doing. And our secretaries, our executive secretaries at the board office are first class. They work so hard. And obviously the concerns over treating the ones in the business office a little bit differently was the concern that we had talked about, and how would that impact everything. So it's not in the salary schedule, but if that needs to be changed, there just needs to be an amendment.
And if the board does not wish to move in that direction, then you could certainly just approve the 5,000 series as presented. So that would be the board's decision.
when we look at, okay, let's say at this point, which I'm not ready to approve either one of those options at this point. So we go ahead and we approve the salary scale as we talked about. Can that be amended later on, or is that locked in for the rest of the year? How does that work?
Well, I've heard before from legal counsel that salaries need to be established before July 1st.
Just a little bit louder.
I'm sorry, I've
That's
got a little
okay.
something in my throat
It's
this
me,
evening.
but-
I've heard from legal counsel in the past that salaries are supposed to be set before July 1st. And so based on that guidance, I've heard to be true in the past. Really, the correct thing would be to try to set that before July 1st.
Because I agree with Dr. Sachs, as he said, I mean, we have great employees, and we also have a group that's a little concerned because of some of the special testing and other things that they have to take. Are there other options that can be looked at? Are there other avenues? I mean, I'm just, that's pretty significant if we go the route of everyone being included in there.
Well, you know, just as on this, the salary schedule we have, you know, each year we learn and identify maybe things that we're like, oh, that really isn't as equitable as we thought it was, or, you know, someone brings to our attention that there's an equity disparity between, you know, in a role. And, you know, each year we've tried to address certain things. I think that as it relates to this one, you know, quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, we learned about it, I would say, a little bit late in the budgeting season for us to give it, I would say, due diligence. What I think would be a responsible way to look at this is that we've heard the concerns from this specific group and where their concerns lie as it relates to compensation. And what I think we can do is that Mr. Rotgen and I, over the course of the next year, we can maybe perhaps investigate what possible solutions we could try to accomplish in the budget year ahead, as we look at the salary schedules and how can we maybe adjust things to make them fall more in line to you know, determining, is it equitable, is it not equitable? You know, if they have to take this extra test, you know, is there maybe a different way we want to structure the position at some point in order to make it a different compensation, so that, you know, I don't have an answer for that. I'm just saying that because I don't have an answer for today as to how to best solve the problem, I would like to have some time to work on it. And we could do that, and I'm not promising that as we work on it that we'll find a solution either. But I just don't know that I have the answer right now, especially when there's the timeline that needs to be met to establish this before July 1st.
So the option that we have is to go ahead and approve the salary schedule as presented without any modification to it, with direction, Dr. Sachs, to you and to staff down here to go ahead and continue to pursue, look at opportunities or avenues that we may be able to do in the future, or come back with a recommendation to the board on something else in regards to that group. Is that?
Yes, but those recommendations for any kind of salary change would have to occur during the, the next fiscal year, yes.
Understood, yeah.
And, you know, I would be willing to meet with the employees to find out where their concerns lie. And then, of course, I think part of it is also investigating what are other school districts doing as it relates to this role. I think that, again, one of the concerns was spurred because of, you know, there was a different district doing something a little bit different and the salary was a little bit higher. We face that all the time with different positions, though. And if maybe there's a better way to do it, and I'm just not sure what that is yet. And we just haven't had time to really fully investigate that, so that I can give you a solid recommendation, other than what has already been sort of shown.
I'm sorry, was thinking.
I need a motion.
What's your pleasure? Before we make a motion, I did express my concern on the 6 employees that we were talking about. It's a shame that we couldn't do that. I understand why, I really do. But I know that those 6 auditors do a tremendous job for you. And they really earn that extra $10. I mean, with the salaries that we give and the salaries that are in place, the $10 extra for those 6 auditors, to me, was very, very well worth it. And I understand, you know, maybe you can work on it for the next time, for the next budget or whatever, but that was my concern for you, is that you need those people to back you, you know, to keep
absolutely.
you. And I'm not saying, I'm saying because I know that your job is so important, and you do a wonderful job at what you do. And that was my concern with, I was okay with that $10 raise. I really was. I thought it was very, very much earned by those auditors. I really do. But hopefully it'll work out in one way or another for the next time. I hope it does. That's all.
Well, I think I agree with Ms. Neely that there's no doubt about.
You have to go a little louder
Oh,
on
I'm
your.
sorry. But I agree with you that, you know, that they do a tremendous job. And I know
Well, they
the
hold him up.
workload is phenomenal. But I guess the concern that was raised was the being equitable amongst that whole group, and how do you
Yeah, I know.
how do you do that, and how do you weigh that out? And so that's my concern, because I agree with you. There's a lot of work that is done in that group, and how do we support them? How do we do that? So I think some options that would come back would be
Well,
for us
maybe
to look at.
that could be worked out for the next.
Right, correct, for the
Next
next-
go round.
next go around. Agreed.
I know for a fact, several of them were very upset. I mean, I got communication from a couple of them that were very upset, and I really felt bad for them, I really did. But, you know, I try to explain, but it's hard really to explain, no, you're not gonna get it, you know, and but anyhow, I've said everything I'm gonna say about it, and I'm ready for a motion if you're ready.
Well, just one
Mrs.
one final comment is that, you know, that concern about the equity down here at the central office, but then when you start looking at increasing salaries for the whole secretary
Yeah.
area, how does that play out if it goes down into the schools? The same thing. I mean, you have secretaries down there that, although they're different. I
It's a
got that,
ripple, it's a rippling effect.
And so some of the options that we could be able to take a look at, and let the,
Yeah.
Dr. Sachs and staff take a look at that and come back with something for next year, or whenever it be, I think is what we're looking at, so.
Yeah, I think the concern that I have is just that, you know, every action, there's gonna be a reaction.
Right.
And, you know, if we want the reactions to be positive. We don't want it to manifest that we don't value one group over, you know, another.
Yeah.
That's where because, Mrs. Neal, you're exactly right. We tremendously value the work that, those individuals do in the office, in that specific office for Mr. Rotgen. But I think the bigger picture is we just wanna make sure that we haven't done something that would cause consternation for another group. And so that's why I think giving us some time to really look at it and see what we can do, we'll definitely do our due diligence.
May I'm glad, because I have concern over that. I do value your people. I value the work that you do. I also value every other employee in this county. And I do not want to do anything that devalues other people by raising a select few up. I have a lot of concerns with it. I think most know, I'm very out about it. I want to keep them. Of course, we want them to stay. I want everyone to be happy here, but not at the cost of devaluating everyone else. That is my concern.
And I respect the comments that you've made. I certainly understand, you know, your all's viewpoints on that. And I understand that the big picture as well, that you know, we certainly don't want to cause greater problems around the building, but you know, I do appreciate the kind words that you guys do recognize the contributions they make. They are some wonderful ladies in the office. They do so much valuable work. I had one that, in fact, she showed me the other day that just spending a little bit more due diligence, she saved the county $22,000.
That's fantastic.
I mean, that's the kind of work that they do, that because the work that they do has meaningful impacts on our bottom line. We have really high return on investment with those individuals. And so I do appreciate the board's understanding and support of those individuals. I thank you for that. And I understand, you know, whichever decision you make, that I certainly understand, you know, we have to make decisions based on the organization.
Madam President, with all that being said, and the time frame that we're under to get this done before July 1st, I would make a motion that we approve the 5,000 series.
Second.
Mr. Polly motions, Mrs. Bond seconds.
Mrs. Neely.
Oh,
Mrs.
I thought
Neely
It was Mrs.
seconds.
Neely.
All right, Mrs. Neely,
Mrs.
I'm
Neely.
sorry. Apologize for that.
I did that all the time.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 5,000 series is approved. All right, move on to 6,000. That's probably way over here.
There is.
That's on page 20.
Okay.
Right. No, I'm sorry. What the heck? Here we go. Oh. I'm sorry, it's page 10. Y'all have?
What page did you say? I'm sorry.
10.
10, okay.
She
10 to
said
20.
20.
It's 10 to 20.
10.
10, there.
Yeah.
All right. If I- It's long. That's
Yeah.
so hard to find
You
it
said
today.
20, and
Yeah,
I
I
thought,
did.
yeah, she's at the end of that,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
She is.
there's an awful lot on the personnel.
Right. I'll let that over for a second. And board members, I'll ask if you want to pull any names. Want to vote on anything separately in that large section? All right.
I don't need to pull.
None? None? All right. Let's ask for a motion for the entire series then.
So moved.
All right, Mrs. Bond makes a motion. Mr. Miller seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And motion carries.
Madam President,
Yes,
I want to
sir.
thank you all for that. Before I introduce Mrs. Smith, I apologize. Can you clarify, I apologize because I didn't prepare you for this. Can you clarify as it relates to the RIF and transfer where we're at on, just so the board's aware? Because I meant to ask that and I didn't, I wanted to make sure we were able to explain.
Absolutely. So right now, we had several transfers at the April meeting, and then we had about 13 on the reduction in force, which meant they were without positions. I am happy to report we have one left, but that one has chosen to remain as they are on the list. They are being very selective with where they're going to land because they're with their children.
Oh, okay.
It's a personal reason with them.
So they've had
So,
opportunity, but
they've had-
they're waiting.
They're waiting.
Yes, and they're fine with it.
They can, yeah.
So basically, we are clear.
Okay.
Everybody's back in positions, and we are in full swing of hiring lots of new teachers. So we're really, really busy with that. And our alternative certification, that continues to grow as we get more candidates for that.
Thank you. I appreciate you doing that. Madam President, board members, I'd like to recognize some new individuals that have been appointed this evening. First, I want to congratulate Mr. Boggs. There he is. Mr. Boggs, our new Deputy Superintendent of Operations. Mr. Boggs, would you like to introduce who you have with you tonight?
Absolutely. This is my wife, Jennifer, of 18 years, and so she just came here to support.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Love your dress. Love that.
I want to congratulate Mr. Keith Thomas, who is our new Central Office Director of Health, Wellness, and Support. Student support. I would like to introduce Mr. Chip McMillan, the new Director of Construction, Renovation, and Energy.
Great choice.
Our new Associate Principal for Career and Technical Education, Mr. Travis Baker. Mr. Baker, would you like to introduce who you have with you this evening?
Yeah, I got my beautiful bride, Mallory, here, and my two daughters, Macy Morgan and Matt Grace, and then Ms. Ash, the head principal.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Ash.
Thank you, Mrs. Ash.
I I was so impressed. They brought fans with them because they knew that it gets warm in here.
Yeah.
So they brought fans, yeah. so.
Well, they have been attentive.
They
and
have.
So
They've
well
been wonderful.
behaved, because it can be boring for a kid, you know? This is a boring meeting, but y'all have been great.
They're true assistant principal children, I can
They
tell.
are.
And then finally, we want to congratulate Mr. Donald Pennington for the appointment of the new Huntington East Middle School principal. Congratulations, Mr. Pennington. Mr. Pennington, would you like to introduce who you have with you today?
They were outside when I was walking in. They're not well behaved. All like that. This is my wife and my daughters. They come down.
I miss your little girl right here who was always at my house, looking at my fish ponds, coming in the house. I miss her. You don't know how much I miss that little girl.
You're gonna have to bring her over now.
Don't worry, it won't be a problem.
You're gonna have to bring her up to visit me.
You don't know, you know Rocky, our other neighbor. He texted me last night wanting to know all the gossip in the neighborhood.
Oh.
I'll ask her. I know we don't live there anymore, but I'll ask her.
Well, we miss you up there, and that old thing, I miss her so much.
Don't worry, she'll be running Huntington East Middle School. You serious?
There you go.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations all.
You have a big job in front of you, Mr. Pennington. You really do. And I know that you can handle it. I just.
About the school or my dog?
Both. I really do. You have my full support.
Thank you.
Is that everybody? We introduced-
Did we?
Yes,
did we
ma'am.
hit
That,
everybody?
I think that
Okay.
concludes our updates on individuals, yes.
All right. 7.01, consideration to become a plaintiff in social media mass action lawsuit.
Yes, Madam President, what's the firm? France? William, this is with the France Law Group who presented to the board. And so I'm recommending that we do join that litigation if it's the board's pleasure. I don't think that, unless, you could vote on all the special board
Okay.
items if you wanted to. Obviously, 7.02 is clarification of the breakdown of the girls softball, boys baseball at Cabell Midland for the turf project as to what their shares should be. And then the other three items are student expulsions.
Expulsions.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So pleased as the board, we can do that all in one motion.
Madam President, I would suggest that we separate out 7.01.
7.01 separately?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. All right, so we will be voting on 7.02, 03, 04, 05. And I guess that's, there's an 06 down there,
And an
yes,
yeah.
at the bottom, okay?
6 and.
All right, and we will vote on 7.01 separately. All right.
Madam President?
Yes, ma'am.
On 7.02, I'd like to thank Mr. Hardesty and Mr. Rotten for breaking that down and clarifying
Yes.
that for us so that we are being completely transparent with the funds each individual group made so that those donors know their money went toward that. I think it's really important that we're clear, and I want to thank you for doing that.
Yes, that was a lot of hard work. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
All right, board, let's go ahead and vote on the remainder of the 7,000 series first.
Madam President, I move that we approve item 7.02 through item 7.06.
All
As
right.
presented.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Mr. Miller makes a motion, Mrs. Neely seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we'll go back to 7.01. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Mrs. Bond makes the motion, Mrs. Neely has seconded. Mrs. Neely, the second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No. Okay, so it's 4-1. Mr. Pauly was the no. All right. Discussion. 8.01. Here we go. Presentation of draft of the strategic plan. Dr. Sachs?
Thank you, Madam President. Board members, what you I provided a digital copy that was on board docs, but and the public can see this as well. But I've also provided with you hard copies today. This is the draft 5-year strategic plan. So to give you just a little bit of brief context and a high-level overview, for every year we're required by the Department of Education to create an annual strategic plan. And that's usually for compliance for federal programs, and it's required for specific funding sources. And we've always taken it very seriously. We've always said that the strategic plan is a living, breathing document that is something that we continually need to evaluate, reflect upon, and it provides our guiding principles. There should be one.
I did, wait a minute, I got it.
Okay.
It's underneath this.
Okay, no problem.
It's been a snake and a bit me.
And so, one of the things, though, that is when we think about running an organization of our size, just having a simple, annual strategic plan really is not sufficient. I think that, the importance of being able to set a stake out 5 years out, say this is what we want our school district to look like and be like in 5 years, and this is our plan to get there, is extremely important. We have, we sort of do the same thing with our facilities planning. We have a 10-year plan, but when we think about the county strategic plan and what drives the decisions we make, what drives how we address the challenges that we face on a daily basis or on an annual basis, making sure that they're rooted in our priorities is something that's extremely important. And so before I go through this, just very, again, quickly, so that you have time to look at it, I would like to bring your attention to the last, the third to last page of the booklet. It looks like this. So it's at the very end. This strategic plan was not done by cabinet. It was not done just by several individuals. This really was a team effort. We had a strategic planning steering committee, and you can see all of the individuals that made up that group. There were obviously district level leaders, but we had several board members, we had teachers, we had service personnel representatives, we had administrative representatives. We also had members of the community. We had business leaders. We had the CEO of the Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce. We had university presidents and university representatives on here as well. So we really tried to get a good group of stakeholders, community stakeholders, to give us their perspectives on where we are and where we need to be. If you turn your page, you'll also see that it was important to me to be able to also preview this once the steering committee had come up with their suggestions, to also provide the opportunity for our Superintendent Service Personnel Advisory Committee to provide and offer feedback, as well as the Professional Personnel Advisory Committee, which is made up of additional teachers, counselors, and administrators as well. And so there has been, throughout this process, which has been a year-long process, there's been many opportunities that we have tried to have to get all-encompassing stakeholders to provide us the input on this plan. And so what we have come up with, as you'll be able to note on page, and of course that what I just described is you can be found on page 5 and page 6. It's that strategic planning process and the timeline. But if you could focus your attention to page 9, and that is the overview of district priorities. So we've identified 5 key priorities that we feel needs to be the central focus of the school district as it relates to meeting the needs of our students over the next 5 years. And that is deliver an engaging curriculum that prepares students for college and career success, ensure safe and supportive schools, or safe supportive school culture, recruit and retain high quality teachers and staff, advance equitable opportunities and outcomes, and use data to support district-wide continuous improvement. As you look through each of these key priorities, you'll note that each key priority is broken down into aims, goals, and then action steps. And so the goals are very specific. We use what we call SMARTY goals or SMART goals, and that's goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and they're time-bound. And then we've created action steps to meet those goals. And again, these are all items that we reviewed with our stakeholders. The stakeholders identified what those key priorities should be. They identified what the aims should be, whether it be increasing student performance, or again, maybe it's focusing on career and technical education programs. But you'll notice that in each key priority, it's broken down by those items. So I wanted to be able to provide you with this and give you an opportunity to look at it. My hope was that we can have this approved before the start of the school year. And whether that be you all provide feedback or any concerns to myself or Mr. Leland Steele, who's actually with us. He's been spearheading this project and working with our stakeholders to make sure that this gets completed. If there's any feedback that you have or suggestions that you think that we need to consider before I bring this to you all for your final approval, I'd be happy to try to make those accommodations and those changes, and then I can bring it to you, whether it be at the board meeting on the 6th, or I think it's July 17th. I'm spitballing that, but the second meeting in July would be my goal.
Do you have any comments right now?
A quick question. And I read through here, Dr. Sachs, and looked at this, and I know we have a facilities plan, but over the next 4 years, 3 years, we're, a major component of what we'll be doing in this county is building new facilities. And I didn't see anywhere in this plan, in the strategic plan, that we are focusing in some of our, we just hired a new director, basically.
Yeah.
Have an emphasis on that in the strategic plan itself. And again, I recognize we have a 10-year facility plan, but that is such a strategic portion of what we have going on that I believe a goal, or I'm not saying that one of the primary headers, but one of the goals or something could be focused upon that, so that it is a target and people realize internally and externally that it is an important portion of what we're doing here in this county over the next 5 years. So just a suggestion to look at that. I don't know how it could be added in at this point, or if it should be added in, or if you feel that the facilities plan is sufficient, but that's pretty strategic.
Yeah.
What we're doing now, so.
I don't disagree. As I have thought about that as well, knowing that we have a 10-year strategic plan and it sort of lives somewhere that isn't always, community facing, let me put it that way. It's one of those things that we use internally to prioritize our budget and to strategically plan our budget. It's not something that I think is, it's accessible by the public. It's a public document, but I don't know that it's always out there. And thinking about how this is definitely intended to be out there, having some form of a section that is bringing to light what the board has already committed itself over the next 5 to 10 years, really by the time this is done, 5 to 8 years, and how we're prioritizing our capital improvement spending, I think would flow well. I don't disagree that it might be something that we want to look at adding. And so I can work with Mr. Steele to see how maybe we could put that in there. Would it be a priority, or would it be sort of like a special section on capital improvements that the board has already approved? And we could even have it, I was thinking that we could even have it with the clarification that this was approved prior to the strategic plan being completed and the board is still committed to it, kind of thing, so. I think it's a great suggestion.
And I would assume also, I've had some other minor comments in those things, just word file, send it to you directly, and then, so just those minor
Yeah, that would be great.
suggestions.
That would
Okay.
be great. I think it's also important to point out that, as it relates to each priority, each aim, each goal, that within the school district, there's different groups and different, I would say, key individuals that have responsibility in making sure that we're continuing to work on in those areas. and, making sure that we've outlined a plan that can sort of be a checklist, if you will, that we're continuing to focus on these areas. We're calibrating ourselves to our strategic plan on an annual basis. It's, I think, something that's also very important, and I think providing updates to the board as to how are we doing annually in meeting the goals and of the strategic plan is going to be important, and that's something that we'll commit ourselves to, absolutely. It also means that maybe in several years, just look at what's evolved in our world in the last 2 or 3 years. I think that having this as a foundation is going to be very important, but it doesn't mean that in the next several years we might have to look at it and tweak it a little bit as well.
Well, as you look at your plan as it's developed and approved by the board here, like you said, it drives your budget decisions too. I mean, everything that we as a board approve as far as budgetary aspects should be linked back into one of the goals, one of the objectives, whatever there's different titles for use on those, but on there. I mean, it should be some way linked in to show the priorities based upon your strategic plan that you have out here. And so I think the idea of bringing that back and update as to where we are on completion of those goals, completion of those particular objectives we have out there, semi-annually, annually, whatever it may happen to be, is very important to any strategic plan that we have. So highly support that tremendously to do that.
Thank you. Any other comments on that? All right, Dr. Sachs, I believe.
So I'll work on that.
Next discussion on excess levy.
Oh, there it is.
On
I'm
23.
going to ask Drew to pop up there for a second, and Drew's going to lead us in this conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Sachs. So we wanted to spend a little bit of time this evening to talk with you about the excess levy. Our current excess levy runs, it ran for FY21 through FY25. We are in the final days of FY23. So we have 2 more years left of levy revenue that we would be expecting for our budget. But it's customary that we want to make sure we get that approved before the end of the current levy. We want to get the next one renewed and in place, so that way, we're not trying to figure out how to balance a budget without the funds being there. So in your packet, and I think it was placed in the finance section, there's a couple of documents. And today, we just kind of want to do some high-level discussion. I think we may want to talk in a minute about how we want to approach this. But just to get you kind of started, there's a document that says Cabell County Board of Education levy order.
Yeah.
So looks like that. And then the packet right behind it, there's a lot of color. There's a lot of red text and there's some blue text.
How far back is it, Drew?
I think it's about maybe 2/3 of the way through the finance section, I think is where it ended up. But most of what I wanted to talk to you about is really going to be from the page that's got the red text. And I'll tell you that, what I'm giving you this evening.
It's the last. It's the very last item in the financial section.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we all good, or are we still looking?
You know what? Here, you just have mine.
Hold it. It's only in yours.
Are you wanting us on the order or the?
I'm going to primarily talk from the one that has the red text on
calendar,
it. Now, I'll tell you, even if you are struggling a little bit to find it, I'm not going to sit there and necessarily go line by line. I just kind of want to speak to it and let you all know that, first of all, this is a draft calendar. It's not the official calendar. I've requested an official calendar from the county clerk's office. They're working with the Secretary of State's office, so they don't quite have an official one yet. We're a little ahead of the game, that's definitely a good thing. We don't want to be pressed up against anything on timelines. So they don't have all of the dates necessarily ironed out, but this kind of gives you an outline of what we're looking at. But what this schedule does is gives you a look at what the timelines might look like if we were to run the excess levy on the upcoming May primary. Traditionally, Cabell County Schools has run it on the May primary. We have primary election every 2 years. So this would be the one immediately before the levy would run out. And the legislature actually changed the law maybe 2 legislative sessions ago now, to where we will have 2 chances potentially to run the levy election. And this is where we'll start to need your input on, do we want to move forward with the May primary, or would we want to look at the November 24 general election? Like I said, traditionally we've done the May 24 primary. If we were to run it in May, which again is kind of what our past history that's the pattern we've done in the past. If anything would happen, you would have a second opportunity at the November general election. In the past, there's always been that possibility you could run a special election if needed, but that's no longer an option anymore. So under current statute, we'll have the May 24 primary, and then if necessary, the November 24 general election. The calendar, that's the one that has the red text. The very top of the front page, it's actually kind of counting backwards. So it looks at, I think the date on it is May 20th, 2024. That's a long time from now. So that's why I said I'm just going to kind of speak to it a little bit. You guys can look it over if you want, but I'll tell you this calendar is an old template I had from a long time ago, and there's probably more information on there than we all really need. But as you look through the timelines, the last page of that packet tells you kind of where things all start. And what we're kind of laying out as a roadmap is potentially us approving a levy call on August 1st at the regular board meeting. And by doing so, that would give the county clerk's office plenty of time. And we want to be as accommodating with them as possible, because we definitely need their support to be able to run an election. So by doing it at the August 1st board meeting, that would give us plenty of time to communicate with them, give them any information they need, clarify any questions they have, and we're not a burden to the county clerk's office. So that's kind of the motivation there. So the calendar that I prepared, it's kind of gives you an idea of when things would be due, and obviously things really start to pick up whenever you get within a month of the election. But it really is not too early at this point to start talking about the next excess levy. So that's why we wanted to bring that up. We have a work session scheduled for July 17th, and we're tentatively planning on talking about the excess levy with you all at that work session. Now I know Dr. Sachs has had to step out, so we might want to be thinking whenever he gets back whether or not the board might be interested in perhaps scheduling another work session sometime maybe even earlier in July, where we could have an opportunity to maybe draft a levy call, share some numbers, and start thinking about what that might want to look like. What I've also provided in your packet, like I said, this is just kind of high-level stuff, is the packet that's immediately before the one with the red text. That's the one with the nearly blank page at the start. That is our current excess levy call, and it's pretty long. It actually repeats itself, but you'll see as you go through there, you'll see a listing of all the provisions and how much 5 years ago we thought certain things were going to cost. And so we will need to be preparing something very similar to that, hopefully next month. Hopefully next month we'll be able to put together kind of an updated version that we can prepare for the county clerk's office. The total amount, when you add up all of those provisions in that packet, is about 24.1 million. It's 24, 128, 149. Because of the property values in the county, I already know what that total needs to be for the next ballot, and it's 29,250, 519. So you can see there's been some pretty significant growth in the property values. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that when this passes, all of a sudden, hey, we've got $5 more million than what we had. You know, we're already receiving that. So that's based on today's current property values. But as we start to put all the pieces of the puzzle together next month, as we're working on this levy call, we're going to be trying to get all those pieces to add up to about $29.2 million. What I'm kind of anticipating, if we are to have a secondary meeting, and then obviously the regularly scheduled work session, would be that Dr. Sachs and I could perhaps prepare a draft to kind of get discussion started, and then obviously we'll have a real thorough discussion between us and the board to start talking about exactly what the needs are and where things ought to go, so that way we have a great plan that we can potentially approve at the August 1st board meeting. I guess he's a little tied up. Is that something that the board would be interested in? Would you all like to have perhaps 2 meetings to discuss the levy in July?
I would like to have 2 because I will miss the 17th.
We certainly want to include you then. We were kind of anticipating that because it is such a big project that it would probably take a couple of meetings to be able to discuss, because we want to do it right. Obviously, we want to make sure we put something together that, you know, the board is supportive of, but also the community, you know, would hopefully support. So Dr. Sachs, where we were is I was just.
I apologize.
Oh, no, you're good. Just get you caught up. We're just going over a couple of the handouts, and kind of where we're finishing up right here is you and I talked about the possibility of not only talking about the excess levy at the regularly scheduled work session, but maybe trying to schedule a second work session in July. I think there is some interest on the board to do that.
Good, okay. I think we can do that. The first work session is when?
It's July 17th.
July 17th. So I think
Yes,
my
sir.
question would be, would we want to do one like the week prior, so that there's a week in between, or we could even change it maybe so that we can move the 17th if you wanted to spread them out a little bit, but it's whatever works for you all. I'd be happy to, wherever you all would like to set the second meeting, then we'll use that as the springboard for, you know, bringing information to you so we can make some decisions.
And I told them that kind of in our timelines that we'd prepared, we're kind of looking at maybe the August 1st board meeting for approval. So, you know, even if you wanted to move the 17th to the 24th, that's an option. Or if we want to keep the 17th and then maybe try to schedule a meeting either the end of the first week of July, or I know we already have a meeting on the 6th, or, you know, maybe early the week of the 10th.
The only question I have is if in the, let's say the first discussion that we have, we look at the existing levy as it is, and the board, let's say that one of the board members or several of the board members have a question about, well, what would it look like if we were to add this to the levy? How long would you need in order to really pull financial stuff? I mean, I want to make sure that we give enough buffer between meetings to get information if there's information
Yeah,
requested.
I don't think very long unless it was an extremely detailed question.
Okay.
I mean, as long as, and really with a levy call, obviously you've got to kind of be thinking big picture when you're talking about these kind of numbers. You know, it's kind of hard to get too much in the weeds. So I don't think it would take very long turnaround as far as being able to get them information. So.
Is there any time that in the month of July that you are not going to be around? I think we need to think about that too, though.
I'm supposed to be at a state meeting July 11th through 13th, but that's something, if the board needs to meet, I will be here to meet.
Okay.
My anniversary is the 12th. I do not want to meet on the 12th. It's my 20-year wedding anniversary. I want to be there for it. I'm looking forward to it.
Understand that.
Yeah.
So we currently have a board meeting the 17th, a workshop the 17th.
We have a workshop on the 17th, yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Except for
We're,
Josh.
I won't be there, but
Oh.
carry on.
okay. Did he just throw you under the bus? I'm not sure. He's like, that was a good one, and then Josh's like, that's not good.
Well, you missed that. I signed myself up for one and them up for two.
Oh, there you go. I
Yeah.
like that. Okay.
That's how
I
it
see
went.
that. I
Yeah.
see that now. Touche.
It's all good.
Is there another date that would work well for the board for us to fit in another workshop? And it could be the first one, or it could be the second one, considering.
Have we picked the first one yet? What was the date?
Well, the first one, only one we have established is 17th. Is the board first meeting in August 1st? We would need to have something final and posted on the 27th of July.
Yes, sir.
So I would propose that we do a workshop sometime the week of the 10th if it accommodates everybody's schedules.
Week of.
The 10th.
Just do the
And
10th.
so we have one week and one the following week.
We'll do the 10th.
Possibly not be there.
The week of the 10th?
I'd like to avoid the week of the 10th.
I'm positive I can't be here on the 10th.
It's going to be a week celebration for me.
It's gonna be the 5th.
Several days.
Or the
We also
19th.
have, this is food for thought, we also have a board meeting on July 6th. Nothing would prohibit us from having a financial update on there that actually goes over. Now, I don't know how big that board agenda is, but that is food for thought, is that we could actually have an initial conversation at that.
I like that.
And then, so we could do the 6th and the 17th, and if, after the 17th, you're like, hey, we need a little bit more detail, we need a little bit more information, we could always schedule something maybe early in the week of the 24th, before the agenda has to be published. We would just need to be able to publish anything for the 24th by the 20th, or actually the 19th. So we could just have a special section on the July 6th agenda to discuss, to provide an overview of the current levy and any suggested modified, changes. And in the meantime, Drew, we can go ahead and send them, the board members, the current levy call that we have.
It's
just so
in their
that-
packets.
Oh, it's in the packet, so
Yeah.
that you can, just take a look at it, and if you have questions, we can try to answer some questions for you too.
There's just a couple of line items on there that we probably need to discuss.
Yes.
Does the 6th,
Mm-hmm.
does the 6th and the 17th work for you, Drew?
They do for me.
The 6th and the 17th.
Yeah.
I think
So the 6th is on a meeting date, and how long do you anticipate that pre-meeting to last? I mean, do you have a rough idea? Because when you run them that late,
I don't
it
think
wears
it's
me out.
not a pre-meeting, just as part of the meeting like it is right
part
now.
of- it's
Yeah,
gonna be
just
part of
part
the
of the
board meeting.
regular meeting, maybe
Okay.
like here at the end of the
Okay.
meeting,
Regular agenda.
probably.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that better.
Okay.
I can't tell you because I don't have my calendar, but I think I'm fine.
Okay.
That was celebrations.
Yeah, there was a comment over here, a couple of you heard it. There's no anticipated celebrations for that meeting, so it may be a relatively short meeting anyway, so
Okay.
might be a good use of everybody's time just to tack it on at the end. Do you have any other questions or anything? or-
No, I think I think that works. I will say that one of the things that I was supposed to have placed on this agenda tonight that is not on there was the calendar of meetings for next year, but it will be on the 6th.
Okay.
The
Fair
first
enough.
meeting is on the 6th, we're letting everybody know, and then the rest of the meetings for board approval will be on the 6th.
We'll be on the
We'll
6th.
let you know when you
Okay.
show up.
Thank you all, thank you all.
Oh, thank
Thank you,
you.
Drew.
Keep on going, Dr. Rodkin. Okay.
Well, that worked out good.
Next on the agenda, 8.03, update on current legal issues. Yes, Madam President. We do need to meet and, of course, in executive session. All right, I need a motion to go
So
into
moved.
executive session.
I make a motion, we go into executive session for update on current legal issues.
Thank you, Mrs. Bond. Mrs.
Second.
Bond,
Second.
Mr. Polly has seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're in executive session. This is what you call a marathon. We'll get a lot of things done.
That's right.
We'll go home thinking, oh, man, that's done.
last year.
Since, would it be, with your blessing, I'd like to ask Justin to come into executive session with us since he's now appointed. Sure. If that's okay. Mr. Boggs, would you join us, please? Mr. Boggs, just because you're the new deputy superintendent doesn't mean that you get to do what Tim Hardesty does, and that's delay coming to executive session, okay?
I was waiting on him.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm trying to follow in your footsteps already. Actually, this is small. Okay. I would like for you to. Although, we'll see.
talking. Your wife was texting. All right, I need a motion to come into open session.
So moved.
Mr. Miller makes a motion to come back into open session. Second, Mary. Mrs. Neely seconds. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. We're back in.
I did.
Mr. Miller.
Sorry.
Mrs. Neely seconded. All right, now, thank you all for being here. Thank you for everything you do. I need a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
I want to stay longer.